Last night, Robert Dallek, the renowned presidential historian and author of best-selling biographies on Franklin D. Roosevelt, JFK, and Richard Nixon, was joined by his son, Matthew Dallek, author of prize-winning Histories of 20th Century America and a regular news commentator. In front of a room at James Madison University filled with over 150 people, the two men discussed Donald Trump and the modern presidency as part of an ongoing series at James Madison titled Democracy in Peril.
One is that it's sort of the Timothy Snyder on tyranny, right? This idea that Trump is an aspiring fascist, right? That he's smashed so many guardrails that he is, taken the imperial presidency, the most powerful office in the world, and is going right up to the edge of a kind of totalitarian a state or is close to that. But the other narrative, which I think in some ways is really more interesting, is that, actually he's a pretty weak president, and that it's the idea of not the imperial presidency, but what the scholar at University of Texas Austin has called the impossible presidency. And so I'd be curious to hear, just kind of thinking historically over the evolution of the presidency since FDR, or really since Johnson and Nixon, whether what we're seeing now is more a reflection of the imperial presidency, or actually, rather, are the checks and balances, the Mueller report, Democratic Congress or Democratic House, the media, right, which has exposed a number of scandals. Are these checks really working? The courts, are they working as intended? And are we seeing really a kind of diminished presidency where, it's a weak office now?
I spoke with the younger Dallek and told him some would argue that Trump isn't weak and that he is defiant and strong. Others would point to his success with his Supreme Court picks and think that will be a lasting legacy for him and his presidency. Here's Dallek's response.
Earlier I was trying to say, not that he's weak, but that he's maybe not as imperial as he's been made out to be, because there have been significant constraints on what he's wanted to do. So, for example, they wanted to repeal and replace Obamacare. Republicans ran for 7 years on that platform. They were not able to do it. They failed. He has not been able to build the wall, right? Mexico is not paying for it. I think on the idea that he's going to rip up NAFTA, well, he's sort of somewhat renegotiated it, but it's not really that different from the underlying agreement. He no longer has a Republican Congress. The House is now launching investigations left and right. I mean, they issued like 81, I think, a request from 81 people close to him, including his businesses. The fact that, when we talk about is he above the law, well, we have to let the process play out, right? I mean, people maybe want justice, the next day. But, these processes take a long time, and we don't know if he's above the law. It's not necessarily the case. And it may well be, let's say, he were to lose re-election, he could be indicted very easily.
The elder Dallek was full of knowledge and at times very entertaining when speaking honestly about the current Oval Office occupant. He called the crisis at the border an invention, and he was more than skeptical on Trump being the healthiest president to ever be elected.
I think this so-called crisis at the southern border is an invention, is created by him. And it's shrewd politically because it does tap into lots of feelings that people have. We cannot dismiss the fact that he's had 39% of the population consistently support him. It means something. And he is no slouch when it comes to politics in that sense. After Trump was elected, he convinced his physician to tell the press in the world that he was the healthiest man to ever enter the White House. Bullshit. How the hell would he do that? He had no record to speak of when he ran in 2016. And there's a real advantage in that. When you come to a campaign with a lot of baggage, which your opponents can use against you, you see. And now he's going to have a 4-year presidency to defend. And that will be, I think, extremely difficult for him. because they will point out that not since Richard Nixon have we seen an administration in which there have been so many people who have been indicted and sentenced to prison, and that this is an embarrassment to the country, and this is a president who should be ousted now from office.
The next Democracy in Peril event will be on April the 4th. It's the last one of this series. In Harrisonburg, Theodore Whitelow, Breaking Through News.